Hello and welcome. My name is Brian. Today is March 11th, which means that we can transplant some of our tomato plants here in Southern California, especially the ones that we found to grow well early in the season. This is Costoluto Genovese. It's a very prolific paste tomato, and in this bed here we're going to clear out our cool season greens like this giant cauliflower over here. We got some sprouting broccoli as well as some rapini, so we're going to harvest that and cook it up for dinner. In this video I'm going to show you the process that I use to amend the bed and how I go about transplanting these tomato plants for some really strong, robust plants. And this is a technique that's worked for me for several years now, and I think by sharing this you're going to see this as a common technique for growing tomato plants, especially here in Southern California. When you plant them a certain way, you get them going off a certain way, you're not going to need to come in with pest management and disease management. So this is going to be transplanting, and then be sure to check back for additional videos in the future where I talk about some things to look out for to make sure your plants are nice and happy. So let's get in and harvest our vegetables to clear out this bed, and then we're going to amend this bed with some amendments that I'll show you what they are. So let's get down there and harvest this. So we got this giant cauliflower, and this is a lot bigger than it normally is because I let it grow for a little bit longer, so it's going to swell up a little bit. And then I'm going to pull out this whole entire plant, and then any of the roots, fine root hairs, we're going to shave because it's going to add good texture to our soil. Set that aside. And then this plant, I don't think there's any, oh, there's one more down here. Set that down here. And then this plant's coming out too. And with the brassicas, this is a perfect example of why we need to remove the whole plant rather than to top it off and let the roots decompose, is because they'll make these shoots down here and the plant will continue to grow. So we got to take out that one. Okay, we got that. So the next step to do is to just clear out this whole entire bed of any other remnants like our mulch here, and if we have any kind of irrigation lines, we're going to move it out the way. So I'm going to do that. We got our bed cleared, and this year I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to be planting 2 plants in here instead of 3. I found that the Costoluto Genovese is very productive, and then I'm going to also be planting the plants further back, leaving more room in front here to grow things as these plants fill in this space. So I'm going to be working in this general area to loosen up the soil. Our soil consists of a lot of clay in it. It's a very aged soil, and it's a very well-oiled machine, so we can grow a lot with very few amendments. The other thing we're going to do is if we find any grubs in the bed here, we're just going to chuck it across for our chickens and ducks to eat. And if there's any excess soil, we're going to just scoop it into a tub that we have nearby here. So one of the things that you're going to see is when we transplant our tomato bed plants into this bed, we're going to start them at a very much lower, and as the plant grows later on, we'll then backfill the soil back into this bed. So we're going to start by loosening this area here. The reason why we want the root ball down here is because lower in the soil column, the water and temperature is going to be more consistent or stable. As you move up here, this is going to be very variable. It's going to evaporate and dry, and your plant is going to respond to that environmental variance. So if you get a heat wave or a drought, your plant is going to reflect that in the foliage and its overall appearance. So by putting the initial work now, it means that there's less work later on with regards to disease and pest management. I like to use some alfalfa pellets. That's going to be a slow release fertilizer, or just a slow release. This is not fertilizer. And then I'm going to use some garden tone, espoma garden tone in here. A good couple of handfuls. Then we're going to mix that in. And now we're going to get our tomato plant in here. And you'll notice that we have 3 plants in here. I'm not going to thin them out yet. Anything can happen when we put this into our garden bed. So we'll thin it out maybe in a week after the plant has grown here for a little bit. We got our plant in here now. We're going to backfill this tomato plant all the way to its neck. And as this plant grows taller, we're going to backfill some more. That way we get as much of the main stem in the ground as possible. It will grow additional roots from there, add stability to our plant, and also with extra roots means it's going to be able to take up more nutrients than not. And you'll notice that right off the bat, we're able to backfill the tomato plants all the way to the neck. And it's because we have the same soil medium in this bed as the root ball. And this is the biggest caveat here. You have to have the same soil medium. Otherwise, there is a difference in how the water is stored and how it's moving around. And if you're getting a tomato plant that is mostly a peat moss root ball, which is the type of tomato plant you're going to get if you purchase it, then you'll have to basically bury it to the same level as your root ball. Let it grow for a few weeks until the roots come out of the initial root ball and into your soil medium. At that point, you can finally start to backfill to the top. The reason is, if you don't do that and you backfill all the way right now, your root ball is going to dry out and your plant is going to die. So that's one of the biggest caveats about growing this way. You have to really be mindful about matching all the conditions up, variables up, and that first and biggest variable is going to be the soil medium type. Especially since we have clay, it's going to be very different from peat moss. So we got one plant in here, and I'm going to do the next one over here. And that pretty much is going to be our process in terms of how we transplant our tomato plants. The sun's now poking out over the slope, and it's going to hit our garden bed. Our tomato plants are getting some sunlight now, and with their roots in real soil, they're going to be super happy. They're going to grow super fast, and I'm going to bring you along on how they're growing. The other thing that I'm going to show is how I go about training these tomato plants and how I go about staking them. So be sure to come back and check that out. Our warm climate means that we can grow tomato plants in a very different manner. And in the future videos, you're going to see that we're going to do very minimal pruning for our tomato plants, and it actually helps them out here in our warmer climate. And for those in the colder climates, I have some ideas for you that you can try to change up how you grow, and you may be able to mimic our climate where we do minimal pruning. So be sure to check back in the future. videos. And if I forget, please remind me, because I have some ideas. If I was to grow tomatoes in a cold climate, cold, wet climate, what I would try. And I think it may work for you based on how our climate is and how we don't need to grow. How we don't need to prune our tomato plants. So that's going to be something that I think is going to also, by sharing these video, going to be a new technique for growing tomatoes that you're going to probably see more common of. So until the next video, thanks for watching, and be sure to check out our other videos. It's now March and there's a lot of things going on. I'm looking off camera and there's a citrus tree there that I need to do a taste testing video to share with you as well. So there's a bunch of things. I just got to pick what we got to do. So be sure to check back on our channel to see what we're up to. See you next time.